This is John Ashford. Welcome to another episode of Living African American History. I feel like I'm on the public PPS talking like this, but anyway, I want to welcome you guys to something that this is part two, day two of something that has been so fucking extraordinary yesterday. It was just deep as hell. And the way I came about this, I was sitting in my room and I was thinking about, man, Black History Month. So everybody know that Carter G. Woodson, if you didn't know, Carter G. Woodson was the brother who created the first African American History Month, okay, concept. I think it was a week. I don't think it was a full month. And what he wanted is for people in the United States to know more about themselves, because schools, like schools are doing now, are trying to eliminate certain parts of history. He wanted to make sure that our kids got that. And then it was something became global. And I was like, well, everybody know about Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the big Avengers. And so I was sitting back, I was like, but what about the people that have impressed me, that are living history? You know, some people say you give people their flowers after they die. I want my flowers before I die. So I decided that I was going to ask 5, 6, 7 people that are the closest to me that are doing big things to me. Now, big things for me is because I do consciousness all the time. Okay. And I watch people in their own way change the world dynamically, and nobody really knows about it. Nobody's really focusing on it. So what I wanted to do is take the platform I had and spread that out to the world, so that people can see that history is actually in the making. We have 3 guests today. I can't wait to get to this conversation because they really impressed me. Tim is, I've known since I've been here pretty much. Tim's my big brother from the county. I've been knowing him since 1990. We've been in a gang team together. I work with him on Savalti. I'm representing Savalti right now, the domestic violence and fatherhood program, African American. The only second one in the United States is here in Portland, and Tim Logan created that. If you guys get a chance, if you live in the Portland area and you need somebody to be the face to be trimmed up, your hair cut or whatever, I've never seen. The first time I met Christina and Jamal, I was just like taken back on how well they cared for people and the students, and how the students actually vibe with them. And the way I found out about them is that I was going through some Black forum, and they were at a forum and they were talking about the barber school, and one of my clients' brothers were there, and he said, hey, Mr. After, come by. And I was like, oh, cool. So I came by, and when I saw it, I was like, this is dynamic. Then they went to Mexico and they were sending pictures and stuff, and they live like, if Jet Magazine was still around, they would be on the front page of Jet Magazine, because they're doing big things like that. I know people don't like people talking about stuff like that, but that's how they are. So I want to start this conversation about how they bring in history, how they're making history. And so we have a couple of questions, and at any time, anybody on here can stop, ask questions. And this is something that's interactive. Okay. Now, I will say that it will be public on YouTube later, so I hope everybody's okay with what they say, because it's going to be on YouTube afterwards, and people will get a copy of this. But it's because celebrating y'all. Okay, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, if you guys want to talk about yourselves first, we get going.
Yeah, we'll let the elder gentleman. First.
Well, I appreciate you recognizing my age. I don't know if that was a good thing or bad.
It was respect.
I appreciate it. Well, my name is Tim Logan, and I've been here in the Northwest for probably about 35, 37 years or so. My father's in the military, moved frequently, and ended up in this part of the country as a sophomore in high school. So graduated, stuck around here, went to college in Washington, and then eventually moved down to Portland. When I came initially, I was working doing child assessments for abused and neglected kids. And then at that time I was making $6.15 an hour, which, that was just under minimum wage in 1984, 85. Knew there had to be some more money out there. So I went into corrections, and I, never had a liking or anything for corrections. My degree is in psychology and sociology, and communication and education. So, corrections was not what I had in mind, but that's where the money was, because I was going to just work in the jail. But instead, I got put at being a probation officer doing drug and alcohol, and knew nothing about it. Learned about it quickly because, as a young Black person wanting to survive and thrive, you were a quick learner, quick study, and your retention had to be on point, because whatever you learned, you had to make sure that you were kept abreast of whatever it was, because you were going to be quickly out of a job if you didn't. So went from there to working, I did too good a job, actually. They got a grant, and the grant was 2 of the probation officers were going to become in-house drug and alcohol counselors. So the state gave them a grant, and their cases went from 180 to 40 apiece, so they could do the classes, do the AA, NA meetings, and whatever other kind of things they were going to do. My caseload was 180, and I just figured, hey, look, once you've done what you needed to do, let me write the judge and get you on probation, because I don't need to see you if you're doing well. The police will see you if you ain't doing well. I don't need to keep you on until you don't do well. As a reward, do what you need to do and get out of here. Well, unfortunately, I messed up their caseload, because within 8 months of them having the grant, my caseload went from 180 down to 90. So that right there was messing up their money, because somebody was doing something better than them without getting the money from the state to do it. And by the way, did I tell you they was only working 3 days a week? And it was 8 hours, not 10 hours. So I messed the whole thing up. So as a reward, they sent me out to the field, and it wasn't much of a reward, because I lost my office with a window, went to a box. I got to work with sex offenders and prostitutes, which I just, mentally had a difficult time with, but, they were still people. So I was treating them with respect. However, I did too good a job on that as well, because when I went and wrote my first pre-sentence report about it, I had so much information that was detailed because of my psychology and my sociology, that they sent me down to the police academy to start teaching how to write police reports. I don't like writing. So that wasn't too much of a promotion. And luckily I didn't have to do that very long, because hooked up with one of John and I's favorite people, Kate Desmond, and she talked me into going to juvenile and being one of the first gang juvenile court counselors. And so I did that. And as a result of that, lasted there for 2 years, 2.5 years, and the feds picked me up, and I lasted with the feds for 12 years. So the entire time I spent my career in corrections, I did not go at it with the mind of a corrections person, somebody who wanted to go out, find somebody doing bad, and put them in jail. My mindset was always to motivate and inspire people to do something different than what they were doing. And again, I did not have the words or the concept of consciousness at that time. I just knew that I was supposed to be doing something different than what was going on wherever I was. But I had a job to do, because I had to feed my family. So even though I was doing a job that people in the neighborhood, so to speak, despised, at one point I got called a chocolate eclair. This lady said that I was treating their son bad because I wasn't nothing but a chocolate eclair. And I'm like, okay, what's a chocolate? I know this donut. But she said, yeah, you brown on the outside, but you white in the middle, because I had a job in corrections. So I'm like, wow, that was pretty good. You know what I mean? So I began to live into that. Instead of looking at it and hearing it as a negative, I was like, well, damn, if I'm doing this good and I'm still affecting the people that I can work with, and people see me as still being brown on the outside, that I can do the right thing, then shoot, I must be doing something good. And even that was strange when I was talking to Kate about it. She was like, Tim, that's not a good thing. But, I tend to make my own understandings. And I have done that for a long time. But like I said, without now being in the space and in the place to receive the concepts and perspectives of consciousness, I was just making up my own ways of getting through and doing things and doing it my way. I mean, excuse my language, but I've always been Tim motherfucking Logan. And I don't say that to be derogatory towards myself. I'm Tim Logan, but don't think that I'm going to be in your square box and do what you want me to do, or I'm going to smile and wave, but I'm going to be doing shit behind the scenes my way to affect the people that I know need. And it's not a cookie cutter approach. Each individual has something within them that if you find it and show them what you find in a way in which they will receive it, they have the opportunity to be better or do different or think in a different perspective. And I've just always had that knack. I think my motivation was when I was 6 years old, I watched Blubber on, we used to watch Wild Kingdom and then the Disney movie before you went to sleep at night on Sunday. Remember Wild Kingdom?
Yeah,
This is Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Young people probably don't know nothing about that. But that Wild Kingdom came on and then Disney Channel came on. I remember watching with fascination the scientists put this stuff in them. So the next day, it's on my brain, it's on my brain. So I go in the bathroom, lock myself in the bathroom, and I'm mixing Ajax and Clorox and hairspray and shampoo. And my grandma was knocking on the door, Timmy, come on out of here. And I'm thinking there's gotta be, because I grew up in the South, there's gotta be something better than this. You know what I mean? Always had that thought. So I guess I was never satisfied with where I was or what I was doing. So I was always trying to find some other way to see life or see things and do things. So that's kind of where I began my awareness of the possibilities, so to speak. And I'll stop there because it'll get into the questions, but thank you, Christina. And I forgot Jamal for permitting me to lament for a little while.
Great story. All good. I'm glad we got a chance to hear that, man. Get to know you a little bit, because I personally have never met you. So that's good insight. Thanks for your your history lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can go first.
All right. Well, I'm Jamal Lane. My wife Christina. We are both natives of Portland, Oregon. Been here all my life. I personally never lived anywhere else. Christina, she's lived, in a few other places, the East Coast, throughout her life, not for long, but she's mostly, lifer here in Portland as well. Man, just to give perspective, I'm a barber by trade. We've been together longer than we haven't been together, and I've been barbering more than I, haven't been. I started barbering at probably the age of like 12-ish, something like that, 12, 13, cutting my own hair. I was the type of kid, my mom didn't really have the time or the means necessary to take me to the barbershop on a regular basis, but I grew up in an era where, freshness was a necessity, you know what I mean? Or you was getting talked about bad, you know what I mean? I am a product of Harriet Tubman Middle School. You know what I mean? So you had to keep your fresh tight, or you was gonna get stung on bad. So like I wasn't necessarily wanting to fall into that trap. And plus I was a product of hip hop as well. You know what I mean? So everything that I seen that was fresh was on TV, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to be fresh too. And so that's kind of where my fashion sense of hair and haircuts and styles came from, wanting to emulate a lot of the things that I saw on TV. And so, and not having the freshest haircut, I had to, produce it myself. So somehow some clippers ended up in my house. My mom said she didn't bring them, but they have magically appeared. And, I picked them up, man, and started, trying to put my fresh on. So, from doing that with much trial and error, I actually became pretty good. And long story short, man, I'm a self-taught barber, since a young age. And I feel like God planted that gift, in my hands, as something that would, in the future take care of me and my family well, you know. And so that's been in my story, so to speak. Like, I've taken barbering and turned it into something that's been able to, you know, be an outlet for myself and for others. And you know, I've been able to build a business with it, been able to become an educator with it, been able to become respected, I would say, in my community with it, and you know, give myself a sense of stability and freedom with it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that was all God's plan, you know, to put that gift in my hands, and I run with it and try to expand my lane with barbering, and been able to find success with it. So that's pretty much in a nutshell my story. You know, outside of being a father and a husband as well. Yeah, man, that's a little bit.
All right, and then me, let's see. So as he said, I'm a Portland native. And as a young, I actually lived in Alaska for 3 years. My father was there, and for whatever reason called us to go to Alaska. So I lived there from the ages of 3 to 9. So from a developmental phase, you know, that's a big developmental phase mentally, right? And I don't have a lot of memories, unfortunately, but some of the things that I do remember is just feeling like a strong resonance of relying on self. And I think I was very observant as a kid. So I would just watch things that went on around me, and I would know what I didn't like, what I liked. And I've always done that. And I've always been the type of person to quickly, I mean, I know what I want in life, and I can observe really quickly if something is not helping me get there. And if something's not helping me get there, whether that's something, someone, some circumstance, whatever it is, I need that to be removed, because I am on a mission for what I am wanting, for what I want. So I've been a rebel because of that. Growing up in the school system, I strongly felt that they didn't care about me, and they didn't care about us, and that just didn't sit well with me. And so I was like, well, I don't like that. What's the purpose of being here? You know, I actually want to be poured into. I actually want to be invested in outside of my home, and I'm not getting that from this place. And why do I have to go? Why do I have to go this route? So at like 16, I think I decided to stop going to school because I didn't see the benefit. So I've always made my own route, and I've always heavily relied on my intuition to lead and guide me, and I just blindly kind of follow. I use the word knowing. I have a sense of knowing that I trust, and I just follow that. And it's done very well for me. I'm very delighted. You know, I'm about to be 44 on Tuesday.
Happy birthday.
So I'm in my 4th decade in life, and I just look back and I'm just like, wow, you know, I'm really appreciative of myself for not following the path and creating the life that I want, however, by any means possible. And that's not in a way to, you know, that's a part of, you know, I learned from serving others. So I love to help, and I love to execute. So I see this gift in my husband as he works in the barbershop. And he comes home frustrated because the educational system isn't nurturing barbers in the way that they should be. And they're coming to the shop and they're looking for work. And he's just like, man, why are people paying all this money and they're coming and they're not ready? They don't have what they need. And that frustration was just so repetitive. But I knew that he had this gift to teach. I would see it all the time. Like, he taught our kids very well. And so something within me was like, no, okay, yeah.
The knowing.
The knowing aspect was like, you're going to support him. and you guys are going to create a school because he needs to be developed. There's something that, you know, we created our own college, right? Business is your own college degree. And it's been such a great reward that I am able to be a part of the evolution of individuals who really want that.
And so that was good. Thank you. I'll go carry on just a little bit more and now that she introduced herself, if you don't mind. So we are the founders of Oregon's first barber college, post-secondary career school focused on barbering. Has never been done before. Say it.
I just, you know, I'm detail oriented. It's not.
I was gonna get there.
We're the second barber college in the state, but we're the first Black. And I just know if I missed that word. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Yes, Black-owned barber college in the state of Oregon, first and only.
What's the name of it?
Champions Barbering Institute. So we also own Champions Barber Shop here in Portland. We've been business owners for the last 15 years. Opened up the first shop in 2008 and opened up the school in 2016. So we've had up to like 3 shops at one time and the school. We since scaled back, but yeah, man, we did something that hadn't been done before in regards to barbering. And it feels good to be the only ones to accomplish that. You know what I mean? I think that that's something to be applauded, even though I don't look for that. But it definitely seems to go under the radar sometimes. I don't think people really understand the magnitude of what we created and the impact that we have, not only on the barber industry, but just you know, in people's lives in general. There's a lot of pivot and transition that happens when people decide to come to barber school. And it's not just a career change, it's a life change for a lot of people. And what we've learned, you know, being in the position that we're in, is that we're not just, you know, helping people become barbers, but we're actually like life coaches. You know what I mean? Like we're really impactful in a time where people, they're making a change, a big decision in their lives. And so, yeah, it's great to be in partnership with my wife, you know, in this venture. We've grown a lot together. I've seen her grow a lot, you know, as an individual and how she, you know, now she said she knew I was a teacher. I tell her all the time that she's a teacher, but she, you know, I'm not a teacher. I'm not no teacher, but I firmly believe that she is, and she teaches in her own way. And so, like, we just both happen to be teachers, and never would have thought that we would be, you know, that at all. Like we said, we just, you know, not to minimize ourselves, but we some young folks from Portland, man, Northeast Portland, and I feel like our faith, our knowing, is what led us here, and we just playing a role that God would have us to play.
Wow. So y'all want to talk about the Mexico and the workshop you did? Because Tim, you're gonna come back with Savalti in a second. So let me get preference why I say that. Okay. You know, I was going to the school, and I just went to school because, real talk, I went to school, and some of the clients that I've worked with on supervision, the last cat, I'm not gonna mention next because of their privacy and stuff, to see the change that these cats made and watch come in the beginning with them in the shop and see them as they mature. It's like Multnomah County in Portland, y'all who's not in Portland, Multnomah County should be having a direct contract with them about bringing people in, just if they don't remain barbers, but if they could get that training, that support dynamic, like night and fucking day. I mean, and the care and how, and you know how you can tell how some people respond to certain people. You can see some people respond to somebody. I work in a situation where there's a lot of adults working with young people, and the kids don't give a fuck about them adults. That's not true in they shop. And I want y'all to talk about your endeavors of going to Mexico. What was that like, and your workshop that you did? And I know you were doing something else, Christina, with that, but I know I've sent one kid there. But
okay, so let's talk about Mexico. We have a tie to Mexico. I'm still unraveling that. For our 10th anniversary, Mr. Lane surprised me with a trip to Cabo. And ever since then, I've like, oh, I really love Mexico. It's because it has familiar aspects as the States, but it's just absolutely beautiful. And so here we come to the pandemic. So let me just say this, mind you, I've always had this desire to, it's like a little kid desire in me, to watch baby turtles be released into the ocean and to see some ruins. And so as a mom, I'll be like, okay, well, I'm gonna take my kids to go do this, and using them as the escape route to go achieve this, but really it was all for me. But I never did that as a mom. So it was still on my list of wants. And so the pandemic hits, and Mr. Lane again surprises me with a trip to Mexico, to this land called Tulum. And I had recently heard about the word Tulum, or the place Tulum. And we're talking about consciousness, and I think consciousness is about energetics. I'm learning it's about energetics. And so I get pinged on stuff. And so when I first heard the word Tulum, it like ping, it was something there. And I kind of look at it as I envision or imagine if I had this invisible shield and there's a whole bunch of things on my shield. And they don't always make sense to me right now, but it's something that has pinged me, and I recognize it. And when it's time for it to make sense, it will make sense. So anyways, Tulum pinged me, and then all of a sudden I find out that I'm going to Tulum. So I'm ecstatic. It was such a beautiful place. And so we get to Tulum.
This was year 15 anniversary, by the way. Go ahead.
Okay. We get to Tulum, and we're sitting at the restaurant, this rooftop restaurant on the beach. And it's nighttime. And I see people at the beach, and they have flashlights, and they're like picking something up and putting it in a bucket. And I'm just like, what are they doing? What is going on? And my higher self was like, it's baby turtles. And I was like, no, it couldn't be baby turtles. Couldn't be baby turtles. So I couldn't wait to get down there once we finished dinner. And there's this bucket of baby turtles. And so they're literally picking up baby turtles. I didn't get to see them released, but that was like, wow. It was very unexpected, and this just childlike desire to experience. And then come to find out that there's also ruins in Tulum as well. So I was just like, wow, all these things just got checked off my list, and I wasn't even prepared for this. Like, it was all by accident. So
Accident.
but it wasn't by accident, right? Because nothing happens by accident. But one could easily just, say, oh, this is a coincidence. But no, it's not, because it's destined steps being taken.
So safe to say she's in love with Mexico by now, right?
Really in love. It was like magical. There was nobody there because of the pandemic. And I wish it could stay like that forever.
But from there, with Mexico, for me, it was more so of nobody in my family really has traveled. Nobody had passports or anything like that. We were the only people that had passports, and so I'm trying to start something new for my family, for the young people to see, for the old people to see, like, look, y'all, we can get out of here and go experience some things, to see some things. There's other things out here to see. And so that was kind of outside of showing my wife something, special and celebrating our anniversary and all that. I always felt like in certain ways, I've been the person to kind of do things outside of the box in my family, untraditional means of doing things and having things. And I just always wanted to continue to be that example. And so that was one of those experiences there. And then I said, well, I actually fell in love with Mexico too. to the point to where I'm like, I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to move, but we got, we got roots and things that we're attached to, our businesses, of course. You can't just, up and move. But in my mind, I'm like, maybe we can. And so Miss Lane, she actually was putting things out into the air, out to the universe, and saying, we about to be gone for a year. We're going to go and live in Mexico for a year. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how, how that's going to happen, but okay. You remember that? Yeah. And she was like, yeah, we leaving for a year. We're going on a sabbatical. That was the word. Our family ain't never heard no word sabbatical. Right? What is it? So I only heard it in church. I'm gonna stop preaching for it for a minute. You hear people say it. But yeah, man, and she kept saying it and kept saying it, and I'm like, all right, that's what we're doing. It may not be a year, and it didn't turn out to be a year, but we actually did go to Mexico last year for 4 months, and that was an amazing experience. You know what I mean, and change. And we actually got to take our youngest daughter with us, and so she's at the time she was a sophomore. That was her sophomore year in high school. So she started off her whole sophomore year in Mexico, where we got to she, again, a teacher, right? She put together a whole curriculum, for her to do, school abroad or what have you. And what's the term I'm looking for? Not online school, but homeschool. Yeah. So, and that was an experience in itself, to watch her kind of change. They had already been online for COVID or what have you, but just to get her out and about and to see different things and study different things and use that as a means of learning, it's hard to even put words to it. I look back at it sometimes like we really just did that. We was gone for 4 months. And my first time ever being away for Thanksgiving, my first time ever being away for Christmas in my life. You know what I'm saying? My first time ever experiencing weather above, 50, 60 degrees during that time of the year in my life. My body and my mind was tripping. Like when we woke up on Christmas, it's sun shining and I'm like, it's hot. People are jumping in the pool and I'm like, this is weird. My whole makeup was, we're talking about 44 years of life at the time. I had never experienced nothing like that. And so it was a change in so many different ways. Yeah, Thanksgiving, not being around family. I had never not been with my family, my mom and my aunties and uncle, that whole scene. I had never not been around that my whole life. And so again, to go experiencing that different, it did something mentally and spiritually to me that again, it's hard to even explain. It was just such a difference. And I always go back to just the temperature. I mean, my body has been used to a certain temperature during this time of year, my whole life, my whole existence. You know what I'm saying? And so to finally have a difference, it's hard to explain, but we did that. And it was amazing. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that was, for me, living through them, I seen pictures occasionally with them. That was like, wow. And that's part of the consciousness that I've seen, that you choose for yourself and it impacts everybody around. Your family members, the students, the people in the community. What do you mean sabbatical? And then you give the possibility that everybody can do something outside of their norm, like Tim said, outside that box. I'm gonna switch over to Tim a little bit. Tim, can you talk about Savolti, your trips, your living in Italy?
Well, Savolti came about, I was with the Feds, like I said, for 12 years, and my wife was working at that time with the NBA team in Portland, the Trailblazers, and we had a son. And when I was coming up, my grandmother took care of all of us, myself, 4 cousins. We got dropped off in the morning in summer, and during the school year. I mean, we went to school from grandma's house. We stayed at grandma's house in the summer. Grandma was just grandma. But again, want to talk about that old style thinking that you're using today that don't work. That ain't working nowhere today. grandma working just like you working. So you got to find some daycare or take your kid to work or quit your job and do something at home. So that's the predicament we were in. Because her parents were the busiest old people in the world. I mean, they're 70 years old. He's still working at the university on old Oregon Health Sciences, and grandma's still, I mean, Nona still having dinner parties and playing bridge and this and that and the other thing. I mean, come on, y'all. Can you help me out? All I want to do is go to graduate school. So I quit my job because they couldn't do anything. They couldn't pick them up. I was doing searches. I was deputy, I was a supervisor, basically. Had my own caseload, had a whole bunch of other responsibilities that took me after 5, when almost to 7, daycare's closed. She got games, she got things to do. So eventually came to a mutual decision that I was going to quit because she was in the corporate world. And by the way, her corporate bonuses were 3/4 of my entire salary. So obviously she had nowhere to go but up, which she did. Her bonuses here last year were 3 times my salary. So obviously we made the best decision possible. But I was home and I'm with my son. He's 3 months old, and I find myself looking out the window at 5 o'clock, wondering, when is she coming home? It's 5 o'clock. She just got off work. She ain't going to magically appear. So I'm thinking, I sat down one day and I'm waiting because I literally turned 5 o'clock and I look out the shade. He's sitting in his high chair and phone rings. Well, I'm going to go and have some wine with my friends. When my friends are calling me, they're saying, hey, Logan, what you doing today? Changing diapers and washing drawers. I'm like, man, I had a gold badge and a gun. And now you calling me talking about yeah, man. So my manhood was taking some hits because, again, my mindset was using things from the past, my foundational years that weren't working because life was changing for me. So my pastor asked me to do some anger management with some gang kids because he knew my past history of working with gangs. And I knew nothing about it. And I told him, I said, Pastor, I know we got this development company. Now it's called, what is it called now? It was Irvington Covenant's Community Development Program, and now it's Constructing Hope. Okay, so they were doing apprenticeships to get on with these construction companies. And whenever you have young Black men who have been in trouble get into a situation where they got to take orders from someone else, they don't last very long. They'll cut somebody else. You're making $26 an hour. Take that money, get in that hole, dig whatever they want to dig, and take your money and go home. But that was not a concept they could relate to. So I said, Pastor, I can't do it. I don't know. He said, there's no such thing as can't, Tim. If you want to do it, you'll find a way. Pray on it. So I'm like, man, I don't know this prayer stuff, man. Sometimes it come to and sometimes it don't, I don't know. So I went and I talked to a couple of probation officers. They said, yeah, we do anger management, domestic violence. Here are the places that we do. So I went around to a couple of them, and, you meet these high cheekbone people that tell you, well, we don't know if we can work you in as an intern. So, why don't you get back with us? And I'm like, well, that's no help. You know what I mean? I need to do something right now. And you're not even talking to me like you really recognize I'm standing in front of you. So yeah, I'm not coming back to you. Thanks, pal. So then I went to this one dude that was a pastor, Lutheran pastor, and he was just, his compassion for wanting to help the men was it was engaging. But he had no know-how, no knowledge of criminal activity, no nothing. He just had a desire. So when I went, I was like, okay, man, so let me help you out here so I can give you, just when we're talking about how the system works. So it's like, well, why don't you come to our first group? Okay. Well, thank goodness the group started at 7 o'clock and there was no Blazer game that night. So I had an opportunity to go to, and he had like 8 clients, and these dudes was running all over this cat. And I just, I couldn't hold my tongue. I just, something just told me, Tim, jump in. So I'm like, yo. Hey, y'all need to back here and sit down. So I ended up helping co-facilitate the group, not even having the knowledge of what the curriculum was. But it was effective because dudes was coming, and I'm kind of a brash dude, not necessarily in a way that's disrespectful. I feel always that teaching is about not showing you how much I know and showing you how dumb you are, but trying to impart an emotional understanding that relates to your ability to want to change, that motivational, inspirational kind of thing. So by the end of the class, I told so many people to shut up, sit down, and be quiet, and listen, because you don't know if you knew what you don't know, then you wouldn't be in this class. So you got to be knowing something. So let's sit down and listen, because I know more than you, because I ain't in your position. Well, they were shaking my hand. So the dude kept, hey, bro, can you come back next week? So I started with this dude, and I got more and more involved in the milieu to the point where I was doing his class at night. My son just started to go into the daycare for half a day on Tuesday and a full day on Thursday. So I had some time to like emulate what I was doing with this guy with these kids. And after about 6 weeks, he said, you need to go downtown to the Family Violence Coordinating Council meeting, just so you can rub shoulders and interact with other people that are in the. So I'm like, yeah, great. So I started going in February, every second Friday of the month. And there were like 100 people there. And I was the only person of color, the only one. And it was a big U-shaped table. And, my mom said, if somebody's staring at you, wave at them. If they look away, then they just looking at you, trying to make you feel bad. Talking about, that's an ugly duck. What that duck doing here, okay? But if you wave and they engage, then you talk. Well, I wasn't waiting for them to wave back, and I wasn't waiting for them to look away. I just say, hi, how you doing? I'm Tim Logan. You're going to look at me like that, then I'll act just as silly as you want me to act. Because I'm in here to do the same thing you were doing. You ain't going to force me out of here with your eyes. May comes around. It's a sunny day. I don't want to go because it's sunny outside. I could take my son to the park. We could be outside. The sun don't come out too much in Oregon for 6 months. So this was one of them times when the sun was out in May and I wanted to get out in it. But I said, no, I'm the only brother there. So they're gonna know if I ain't there. So I went. But this day, I ain't talking to nobody because I ain't in the mood. I'm not the one or the two to be messing with me today. So I go through the whole meeting and people are getting ready to leave. So I get up and I'm dressed appropriately. I didn't have no sweater on, but I had a collared shirt and a jacket, suit jacket. I have my jeans, some nice shoes, so I'm appropriately attired. I stand up, I turn around, and something told me to turn back around. When I turned back around, people like jumped. And it popped in my head, if you guys are working with the men and women that look like me, and you're inspiring any kind of change, and I'm with you, I ain't got no crime, I ain't raping, robbing, and you looking at me like this? No, that's it. So that's when I started looking for a curriculum, and a curriculum that was specific for cultures of people, where people live, because the same issues exist in relationships everywhere, but it has a different feel to it because what are the values and norms of that living situation. So I got one from Dr. Oliver Williams, University of Minnesota. They were just working on a curriculum that would be able to be multicultural. Well, multicultural, no. What they meant was multi-ethnic, so that you had Latin American, you had Native American, Indian, you had European American, you had African American, all in the same class. Not recognizing that they come from different cultures. Just, we're going to talk Black here, we're going to talk with a broken accent here. That was all they were doing, was they didn't look any deeper than that. So I got the curriculum and the original manuscript, but it was sold to Connecticut. So it's called Connecticut's Evolve program. I got permission from the state, even though I didn't need it because I got it from one of the original authors. But they're gonna come for you if you don't do the right thing one way or another. Then you got to justify and rationalize why you didn't follow their rules. So I did both, and I started a program. And you know, I told John when I first started, I do not want this to be about a personality. I want this to be a program. Because like I said a little earlier, I have a way of presenting myself that, you know, I've walked around like my ass on my shoulders forever, smelling nothing but roses. And it's not because I'm arrogant. It's not because I'm braggadocious or anything like that. I just have that feeling about me. As I said, I'm Tim motherfucking Logan. So nothing is going to sway me if I feel strongly that what I'm doing is in the best interest of somebody else. It's determining on a consistent basis if I have the ability to be selfless rather than selfish. Because, you know, like you said, Jamal, I'm not in it for this money or recognition. I've done a lot of things, but I'd rather be the vice president, because when the last time you heard Kamala do anything? But you hear everybody yelling at old boy. So I don't want to be out front. I want to be making things happen. I'm the only one that needs to know it. I don't need nobody else to know my name. I don't need nobody else to give me no props. I don't need to be involved in everything. Okay? Because when I see things that I know I've had a direct result with, I don't want to go, see me? I'm here too. No, because that's going to mess me up for the next thing I got that's coming down the pipe. Because somebody go now look at me because I'm in the spotlight and all of a sudden start using those interrogation like, what's this motherfucker been doing? Okay, so I leave all that alone. But they didn't believe it. When they first sent me 5 clients, I couldn't even pay rent with 5 clients. They thought I was over there teaching them how to load and unload Mac 10s, because these were the most difficult individuals to reach. These were dudes who they were serial domestic violence dudes. They ain't had one, they ain't had two, they had like 5 or 6 and were telling, you know, stories in class rather than actually trying to accept responsibility. They tell their responsibility story by saying, well, man, I was doing this and making it seem like, yeah, man, I understand. You ain't had no choice but to whoop it down. Come on. You get more power out of telling the story than you are accepting the responsibility for changing your behavior. But they graduated. So now they sent me 5 more, and these dudes was worse. One dude had been in prison for 10 years for cracking his girlfriend's face with the butt of his gun because she wouldn't give him his dope money. You know, so and very low educated, and you know, just a dude that was in survival mode and got pushed out or kicked out because he was not presenting in the way that people thought was appropriate. Well, how come he graduated? Okay. Sent me a dude that couldn't read. This brother could not read, but you could tell he couldn't read because he had to get the gab. You know what I mean? But you got to look deeper to find that silver lining. And that's what I was willing to do. And, you know, what I told him was, hey, look, you know what? I'm asking for referrals to pay my rent because I made a promise to my wife that, you know, there would be nothing. I would not take money from us to do this. You know what I mean? If it didn't pay for itself, I would quit. I would stop. So what I ended up doing was doing other things. I did educational advocacy because when mom and dad get in a fight, the kids, even though the kids aren't in the room, they can still hear it through the wall. And even if they can't hear it through the wall, they see it in the kitchen in the morning when mom ain't talking to dad or mom's ignoring dad. And that, you know, bothers the kids. I mean, some of that inner understanding that we have that you spoke of, Christina, we have all the time. But when we start learning language, we let go of those conscious efforts, those other senses that aren't part of the 5 senses that we normally use, because now we start relying on our language. So these kids were going to school and just getting in that school to prison pipeline, getting sent to alternative schools, getting sent to detention, and never receiving the application of any kind of inward looking educational service. Okay, what's happening to them was what's wrong. No, what's wrong with them was the question they were asking, because they were not complying in conformance. Whereas I was looking at what happened to you. Because if I knew what happened to you, I would then develop a specific way of dealing with you or bringing to the surface that normal, natural intellect that exists in all of us. So again, You didn't want to send me no people? No problem. I'll find another way to get money. Okay. And then that wasn't enough because I wanted to get in a bigger office, got a bigger office, couldn't pay that. So I did another dipsy do. I went to working with developmentally disabled kids that were getting up in age and almost getting ready to be pushed out of the system. Okay. Well, if you Black and you 6'4" and you 280 and you're not completely intellectually together, then you the scariest thing in the world for to be in a group home full of white little boys that, you know, can't get right. You know what I mean? So I started working specifically with them to get them in their individual living in a collective place. Teach them how to read a newspaper. Teach them how to look for an apartment. Teach them what to buy at the grocery store. Teach them how to get on the bus. Teach them how to use the Max. Who was doing that? Nobody, because they were scared of. But again, the corrections department still was sending me 5 people and then parking in the parking lot, watching to see who's going and if I'm lying to them about the people actually graduating. Mind you, my curriculum is already 52 weeks. It's still 52 weeks, but the minimum amount is 36. When I got the curriculum, the minimum amount was 48 weeks. They changed it. I didn't change. If you come to my program now, you got to do 52 weeks or 84, huh? So, but the bottom line is, I found a different way as a result of recognizing that there was a disparity. And then again, that knowing inside of me, to use Christina's words, wouldn't let me be defeated by something. And again, I did not have the words at that particular time that have now been imparted to me through consciousness that I could identify what it was that I was doing, what I was gleaning onto, and how it was going. And that was just the business of Savalti, you know, and we are multifaceted. We have never gotten the amount of money for services that the other programs get. Never. I mean, one entity and a state entity in particular has not given me a raise since 2006. And I think it's pathetic. And at one time I started getting in my feelings about it, but I realized you getting in your feelings about something that is not necessary for you to get in your feelings about money. You don't even give a shit about money because you're going to have what you need when you need it. You're just going to have this idea about what more money looks like, but you don't even know that you need it. So what the hell are you worried about it for? You got what you need. Birds don't worry. The squirrels don't worry. Even though squirrels run around looking like they're late for work every day. But what do you need? What do you need? Nothing. You just need to keep on trusting and obeying. Stay in your lane, go your speed. So I figured if I stop taking the contract because of that money, how many people am I not having the ability to change their lives or affect their lives, or just give them an opportunity to call somebody and say, hey, Tim, man, I'm going through it today, bro. Can you help a brother out? Okay. If I stop and focused on the wrong thing, money. Okay. So I kept taking it and I still do it, even though they're a pain in my, but you know what? It's not about them. It's about the people.
Yeah.
But I can say the same thing evolved in my personal life as well, because, you know, my wife is Italian and we've always talked about, you know, she was, as a little girl, went to Italy frequently, every 2 years or so with her family. So when I first went, like you, Christina, I just knew I was supposed to be there. I mean, there was, we talked about, my wife and I talked about this the other day, where, I mean, I remember the specific place it was, like I'm looking at it right now. There's a field of sunflowers, and they were like 5 feet tall, you know what I mean? And we went through in the morning and they were this way. We went through in the afternoon and they were the other way, you know what I mean? And I saw it and something peaceful just was in me. And I'm like, man, this is where I'm supposed to be. And we started to go, we went first, that was the first time. And then the second time I said, we should live here. We're gonna live here. She was like, no, you dreaming. Why are you dreaming? You dream. Don't wake me up there. You know what I mean? Because I'm a dreamer, but hey, this is gonna happen. And then finally in 2018, we got serious and we went looking and now have a place. We live shortly to go and see the remodeling that we've done and to see what other things we're going to add to that. But, again, throwing it out because we ain't the richest people in the world. We ain't, got billions and whatnot. But at the same time, it's not about that. It's about putting something, to me, it's about putting something out there that is going to happen. And being able to, as you said, Jamal, pivot when necessary, expand, be flexible when necessary, because things show up, but they don't show up the way that we want them to show up. So it ends up sometimes defeating that will or that drive or that desire to do the unthinkable. And you can use that as a negativity or you could use that as motivation. Whatever you got to do, or this is my words, obviously, whatever you got to do to trick your mind into thinking that everything is going to be all right, do it, because it is. I mean, I look at things like if I put it out there in the universe, it's like throwing a boomerang. The better you get at throwing that boomerang, the longer you can turn around, dance, go side to side or whatever, and that boomerang comes back to you. Sometimes it comes back and it's over there, and you got to go pick it up, but it's coming back.
Man,
so I
need
just
to hear that
out there. I just
that was an excellent analogy.
Man, that
was
mic drop. Mic drop.
I think I might start using that as some visualization.
So we got 30 minutes left, and there's two questions I want to get to that you guys covered a bunch of consciousness and stuff, but there was this movie that was done in the 90s, or maybe it's the 80s, with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone called Demolition Man. It's a movie that I think it might have been out before Matrix. I'm certain it came out before Matrix. So probably something in the 80s. The reason I want to bring it is it talked about, let me just give you an analogy. Wesley Snipes was the criminal. Sylvester Stallone was a cop. Points of view already that they're already putting out this black man is criminal, white guy's the cop. Okay. They freeze both of them. They take them out. And what they unfreeze Wesley Snipes first to create this havoc in the community so they can create a plan to do something different they wanted to do. So they had to unfreeze Sylvester Stallone. But when they tried to kill the people who brought them back that were really the criminals, they couldn't turn the gun on them because they were programmed not to take out the people that brought them back because they were their boss. With this analogy, how do you guys break through demolition mentality of the programming that guides us to be just in this reality, going overseas, creating business, taking a sabbatical, creating an organization, not giving up? How do you guys do that? Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
So I think for me, during the pandemic, we sat down and kind of analyzed ourselves and asked us this question, how is it? So let me just paint this picture first. We had just enrolled a cohort. We typically enroll 4 times a year. We're a really small school on purpose because I'm super inspired by you, Mr. Logan, because the language that you're using is exactly the thing that we're doing. But we never had any language either. All we're doing is doing what we feel we're supposed to be doing. And it's so valuable, but it's never taught. Nothing's ever taught to us, which is fine.
The most valuable things are most hidden most of the time. Which is
fine because it's really not hidden. If we just listen, we do the things. Nobody has to tell us because we're righteous and noble-minded by default. So, okay, so we enrolled a class. They were supposed to start, and then the world shuts down, and nobody's doing anything. And we're like, well, no, we're gonna keep going. Our class, we're not canceling class. We'll figure it out, right? Which was a saving grace because we need something to do. We need something bigger than us to keep going, and that's the thread that I found too. It's bigger than me. If whatever I'm working towards isn't bigger than me, then it's really not that satisfying. So we, being the leaders that we are, we decided to rise up and be this thread of stability for the people in our school. And so that's what we chose to do. But then I was like, well, how and why is it that we want to do this? We can do this. Like, how do we even have this ability to be so great? In a time where nobody knows what to do, nobody knows what's going on, what to expect. And so I came up with this analogy or this method, the GRIT method. So always being growth minded, right? The G stands for being growth minded. The I stands for inspiration. And so always seeking to find inspiration. Did I forget the R? GR, my bad, R. Refinement, understanding that we're always refining. Like, how is it that I can grow this particular scenario? What's this situation presenting itself for? And then maintaining inspiration. And then the T stands for timing and understanding that everything in my life, in our life, is going to work out perfectly in its perfect time. And I don't care what's going on. So that's, I think, what we both utilize to stay on our path.
Wow.
Not just to add to that, like just knowing that the people that make these so-called, demolition rules, right? Or set up this demolition system that you're speaking of. The only way we won't turn the gun on them is if we stay programmed, right? And I refuse to stay programmed. You know what I'm saying? I remember that group, I think it was called like Rage Against the Machine or something like that. Now I don't know much about the group, but the name itself, right? Like the machine is the programming. And we have to, it's been displayed throughout ancient history, you know what I'm saying, that there's always a machine built for people to run and be a part of. You know what I'm saying? And you never really get to be all of who you are playing in that machine or being a part of that machine. And I always feel like, I'm so much more than just a link in the machine or a player in the machine, right? Or a part of the machine. And so I'm my own damn machine. You know what I'm saying? Like, God made me, I'm a machine. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was put together by the best. And if I believe that, you know what I'm saying, I can run circles around the machine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was built to demolish the machine, bro. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's my belief. I believe that since I was a child, like, and I was different. You know what I mean? When I was as a kid, I just felt like I was different, man. But everybody is. You know what I mean? And if we can hold on to that belief and that understanding, that's what does it for me, John. That's what keeps me going. So that's my piece.
Thanks. Wow.
Yeah, everybody realizes that there are people that enter in with a purpose of destroying whatever belief or whatever desire you have. Okay. And the greatest way that I've heard it put is haters got a job to do. Okay. That's their job. Okay. And unfortunately for me, I mean, I was born in the South and it was a scary, Larry place, man. I remember actually, where we see the dogs and the fire hoses. I remember seeing that on the news in my grandfather's house. You know what I mean? And I think I was probably 7, 8 years old. Okay. So that was a reality to me. And literally, we lived on the other side of the line in the country. And this was the city. And on the city side were all these brick houses. And on the countryside was all the wood houses and the black people. Okay. Horse pastures and everything. My grandmother, my 2 aunts would put on their little, remember that the help. Okay. They would put on their little white joints, man, and go right across the street and clean all them houses. You know what I mean? So I was there for this. And so that definition of haters got a job to do, look, man, I mean, it was right across the street. When grandma was home, so she was taking care of us in the summertime. We had to go with him because we could just say, because they had to go deep into them brick houses, you know, walk up and down the street. We couldn't play in the front yard. We damn sure couldn't be in the house. So you want to talk about feeling less than, you want to feel like, you want to talk about feeling different, and that reservoir of angst that I wear around my belly right now, of all that tension, that pent up tension, and that pent up absorbed negativity, is something I've always lived with. So that machine that you spoke of, Jamal, is something I've always been raging against, but knew that I had to have a specific, particular way of raging, else it was going to be a danger to me. I mean, you know, if I turned out the lights and stood up against this wall, I'd look like a cave, and I've been looking like this all my life. You know what I mean? So fighting against that, even within the ethnic origin that I live in, has been an issue. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if there is that job that those people got to do and they succeed, that means that I'm done. So you can't win. That's why I'm motherfucking Logan, because you ain't gonna get me. You can't get me. Yes, I'm entitled to have my feelings. Yes, I'm entitled to get rageful. That's a normal, natural emotion. It's normal. It's useful if you use it the right way. I use it as motivation. Now I'm gonna have my pity party, and I'm gonna have, but I only get a certain amount of time to do that before I say, okay, man, it's time to go. Okay, what you gonna do? I mean, how you gonna be mad for 4 days? You really only good mad for 5 minutes. Making up the rest, making up a reason to be mad. Yeah, I'm still mad. Let your boy call. Hey man, what's happening? How you doing? Come on, man. You can only be mad 5 minutes, and then you gotta let it go. Okay. So for me, that demolition is constantly going, constantly happening. But I'm a recreator. So that's why I said earlier, whatever you got to tell yourself in your brain, you know, it's to get you through, to maintain that sober feeling of, this is reality, this is a moment in time, it is going to go. What are you going to take away with it? How are you going to progress as a result of it? And what are you learning? Move your pride out of the way, get yourself, sit down somewhere and be patient and wait on that realization, okay? Because if you wait, things will change. John and I were talking before this. Without chaos, there is no calm. But yet still in this society, we teach calm. How are you going to get good if everything is calm? How are you going to change if everything is love, love? How are you challenged? How do you really know what you can do unless somebody tell you you can't? Because in my world right here, I'm the most intelligent, articulate, handsome motherfucker on earth. But I gotta listen to all this bullshit and all this. I gotta be aware of all these other things that everything else is saying. But in mine, nothing's gonna dissuade me, because I wake up every morning and I'm that beautiful motherfucker. What? So, I mean, demolition, it's a necessary thing, because that's the chaos to rebuild. So come at me if you want to.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow.
That was fire.
Wait, so let me ask from the crowd. Anybody any questions? This is dope. This has been like one of them things. Tori asked me, where you at? I'm like, I'm just so I knew, y'all. See, I said this yesterday. I'm gonna say it again. I'm one of the most wealthiest people on planet Earth because the people that I associate connected to. This shit, the whole concept like of being mad for 5 minutes or being disappointed for 5 minutes. Give yourself 5 minutes and then keep it moving.
Yeah.
You know, have that experience, that pity party. I'm beginning to realize that, and I want to add to this, and do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do later, and be aware that people are watching you. Be fucking aware of that, because you're always inspiring, even when you don't know it, you're still doing that. Last question, because I want y'all to be able to share with people how they can get in contact with you. And also, Was that grit or great that you wrote down, Christina? What was that?
Grit.
If you could add that to so people can have, you could type that in there for people to know what that is. If you, or you can send it, and I can send an email to people that were here. So
Okay, yeah, I'll send it.
okay,
But something cute.
okay, okay. I'm gonna use another movie theme. I was talking about this earlier, vibranium. Vibranium was the hardest. Here, and I want you guys to see something that's kind of interesting. So, because I'm kind of a geek with movies, the Avengers, the brother who wrote the Avengers and the X-Men was trying to explain the X-Men, especially was trying to explain social ills to people in the ghettos of New York that weren't of color. That is something that is factual that I've read before, that the writer who was doing that. So, and I get that Kanye West was upset about people being excited about Black Panther. I love the movie, I ain't gonna lie. But if it defers you from understanding what the real Black Panther Party is about, that's a twist of taking the importance away from the people who actually creating a change in their communities. But what I did like about the movie is this concept of this metal or this substance called vibranium. And to me, I extracted vibranium to be that superpower shield that you use to be your own superhero. Captain America wasn't Captain America until they got the vibranium and gave him that shield. The Black Panther suit was vibranium, and some of his the things he used vibranium, which allowed him to be that superhero. How are you all superheroes, and what's your vibranium? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, I would have to say, I think back to, like, you know, a lot of us probably raised in the church. Then it goes back to the Spirit of God, right? And, you know, in the Bible, it talks about, you know, Jesus being our brother, right? And there's parts in the Bible where Jesus said, you know, you'll be able to do the same things that I do, even greater, right? And so I think about it like all the things that went into who Jesus was, and the fact that he's our brother. And if I had that same Spirit of God in me that created him, I'm just as powerful when tapped in properly. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I would say, man, the spirit of God, man, that I was created with and meant to live and carry. I believe that's my vibranium, bro. I can't say if God is for you, who could be against you, bro? That's the most powerful protecting and force that we have. And I just put a period on that. That's how I feel about that.
Wow. Thank you.
Oh, Goddess, you gotta speak too.
For me, I think I would say I believe anything is possible.
Wow. Wow.
And it's a constant battle. There's kryptonite there. It's a constant battle to nurture that belief. It's a constant battle to realize that belief. Because while I know that in my core, it's in my DNA, it's a part of my cellular makeup, you know, it's something that I will never forget. And it's something that I can always lean on because it's in my molecular structure. Nonetheless, the world that we live in, and even though I feel like I thought I did a good job of removing myself from the bullshit, but the bullshit wants to keep me in this box to make me fight to live out my belief.
The cold little move.
And I'm tired of the fight, right? I'm really tired of the fight. So, you know, that's a part of my refinement curriculum. I'm constantly refining that. And seeking to live that out in a more bold way, more unapologetic way. Now that I know that science actually backs up all of this stuff that my body has been knowing since I was born. My body has known what to do, but the Christina human is like, yeah, I don't know about that. So I guess that summarizes it to the double mind. That I think that's a part of my main curriculum here is mastering and understanding that my mind is a tool, which I think, Tim, you speak to that very well. The mind is a tool and we are to use it for our benefit. It is to assist us in ensuring that anything is possible. So that is, in a nutshell, I think my main curriculum over this lifetime, and it's getting more real and real as I get older. So that's my vibranium. Anything is possible, and I'm going to be making some amazing shit happen even more in my life.
Wow. Damn.
Right on, right on.
I love it.
Wow.
Wow.
I think that was a fabulous rendition, culminating where you guys started talking about the barbershop and, you know, being a teacher and being a self-taught. I mean, that gelled for me. So I appreciate being on this with you guys. I think my vibranium has always been that that extra, you know, when I was growing up, they had the $6 Million Man, they had the Bionic Woman, you know, they had this what the Sixth Sense, you know, they always had these paranormal kind of shows that, you know, what was it, Danger Will Robinson? I don't know, I forget what it, Lost His Space. You know, they had all these shows that were really kind of talking about different things. And seriously, I used to go outside as a little boy and look up at the sky and just like wondering, man, how I'm gonna get out there? You know what I mean? I used to close my eyes and think that I was gonna get a sixth finger, you know, just you know. So I've always been that kind of strange thinker, strange doer, you know, just that kind of different dude. So I think, you know, I've self-made my vibranium to be the words that I, you know, identify with, the audacious. I have the audacity to think and be different. I dare to be different, you know. It used to be my kryptonite, being so different. I mean, we moved every 18 months. I went to 10 different schools before I got up here and went to high school. So I was always the new kid. So my kryptonite was always being different and feeling different until I lived into it. About the fourth grade, I'm like, man, fuck that. I'm not being different no more. And I picked the biggest dude I could and whooped his ass. Ain't nobody fuck with me ever after that. Because, you know, you went to the new school and you was the new dude and people just, you know, they just, you know, want a buck. And I'm like, no, I ain't for that no more. No. So, and ever since then, my vibranium has knocked down that kryptonite. Now, again, as I spoke of earlier, that doesn't mean I don't feel and I don't have those times where I'm, you know, in conflict, but I know how to snap out of it better and quicker now. After perfect practice makes perfect, not just practice. You know what I mean? So I'm older and I've had a number of different years to practice and, you know, again, move yourself out of the way so that you can see what you were supposed to learn because you're prepared for everything. But I think that the last thing that really, you know, codified me being, you know, a substance of vibranium is I realized that my goal is to motivate and inspire people. Okay, beyond what they really are in at this particular moment and finding that way. And I wondered why it was that I was, you know, living into that purpose and wanting to really make that my purpose, and if it was my purpose. But then, John, I just, you know, again, whatever I put in my mind, it becomes one of my I guess, motivating, you know, self-motivators. So, you know, God, in every religion that I'm aware of, we are made in the image of God. Okay, so I'm a God. Okay, and I'm not trying to compare myself to God's, but if I'm made in the image, then that struggle that I'm having
It's not bigger than me.
It's not, because it's part of me, because it was a part of him.
Yeah.
So
and to add on to that, that's truly for all people breaking that programming. And I say that on my Facebook, my religion is being God. And a lot of people might get offended by that. But if you're offended by it, you don't really take it into heart about truly, why would you say that I'm made in an image if I'm not that? So I mean, and I guess that's my vibranium, realizing that, having the understanding of that and making it actually come to play. How does it come out?
Mhm.
How do you entrap you? And when you're God, how do you make people better? You know, and that's the thing that if I was tying the line to what you, people are better because of y'all.
Can I just add something?
Yes, sir.
Going back to when you originally were talking about the school and how you felt when you came to the school and the interaction that we had with people.
Yeah.
Our goal, or so, I wouldn't even say our goal, but something that we found out was happening is that there was a state of reflection that was happening, right? People were able to see possibilities in us, right? And we also saw a place where we once were in them, right? So there's a reflection happening, all the time. And so again, what you just said about being a God, there's a reflection there. There's something in the spirit of God that you see he wants you to see in yourself. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole, I made you in my image because there's a reflection, bro. How do you have how do you see your image unless there's a reflection? Right? So we was made in his image and we're a reflection of him, man, and everything that he encompasses. If that ain't vibranium, I don't know what is, bro.
Mic drop.
Man.
Well, we're coming to an end. I want to leave any questions for and I know y'all gotta have some questions, some feedback, anything for these people. Anybody?
I'm glad we all showed up.
Yes.
yeah,
Man, it was a blessing. It's a blessing. And this is the piece that after sitting with y'all, both of y'all today, all of y'all today, I was worried. I was having a conversation with my wife, Tori, and I was like, man, how come there's not 100 people on here?
Don't even matter.
Don't matter.
no, it doesn't.
Because the energy of coming
People that are
together
supposed to be here is here.
Exactly.
So I say what's up to all y'all.
Yeah.
I see everybody. I see y'all. Thank y'all.
As well as those that will show up later. Like
Yeah.
YouTube
This ain't going nowhere. This ain't going nowhere.
Right?
Matter of fact, I'm continuing this.
You're planting seeds. You're planting seeds.
Yeah.
And people will grab the seed when it's time for them to grab the seed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And because it's recorded, it's not going anywhere. So people are going to have access to this all the time.
Yeah.
And they say you're supposed to do 3 things before you die: have a child, plant a tree, or write a book.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're only alive as long as the last person on earth says your name. You know what I mean? So this might last forever. I don't know. We done ran out of what was discs that we used to have, the floppy disks.
Everything's in the cloud. As long as we got clouds, we good. So contact. How do people get in contact with y'all? Savalti
3, S as in Sam, O is in October, V is in Victory, A is in Apple, L is in Lincoln, T is in Tom, I is in Idaho, the number 3 @gmail.com.
Okay. I don't know if somebody from the team caught that. So
for us, J-Lane at cbi.life and C-Lane at cbi.life.
Yeah.
And we can put that in the chat real quick before we leave.
Okay. Well, yeah, man. I'll say this again. You are as wealthy as the people you surround yourself with and people you connect with. Never fucking forget that shit. Excuse my language from somebody if I said that, but I'm sorry. I like the word fuck, so I use it a lot.
You know what? Can I say this, bro? I respect you for that. Like,
yeah,
you are, and Logan too. Tim motherfucking Logan, as he said. Yeah. But hey, the fact that y'all don't sweat that. You know what I mean? You speak how you speak, bro. You are who you are, and that ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. No more faking from me. No more faking.
Yeah, I can dig that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate y'all all. Thank you. No questions. We have somebody in here. I want y'all to see where it says Demetrius Girl. Jason and Demetrius will be here next Sunday, same time. They'll be on the spotlight. We have Majestic Antoine Stoudemire, who's going to be there with us. If you like this, if you think it's worthwhile, please pass on. If somebody could put my website in here for people, if you guys want to pass this on to other people so other people can come here, it's going to be dynamic. And because of y'all, this weekend, this is just the beginning. This is a brainchild of mine. I'm gonna continue this format throughout until I get tired of it, because this, I think, will bring it brings power to the people.
Can I give you some roses while you're still alive, please?
Yes.
Because I also agree with that model.
Yeah.
And I just want to take a moment to thank you for being who you are. You know, a lot of people come through this space, but not a lot of people observe the way you observe.
Wow.
And your
I'm very
ability
proud.
to observe and to not only observe but also communicate is, for one, it was actually reassuring and affirming for me, because I operate I operate my best in the unseen realm.
Mm.
And there's not much education in that space. But you saw the unseen realm. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, what? Like, so I immediately loved you because of your ability to see.
I appreciate that.
So thank you for that. It's a great reflection, because we're doing what we do, and we, like you said, we're not doing it for any recognition, but at the same time, it's great to be seen and appreciated. So thank you for that.
In a real way.
Yeah, real authentic.
Thank you.
And I'll jump on the back of that and just say as well, you know, I'm a firm believer that you'll have myriad of contacts with individuals and have a number of associates, but you only have a few real good connections, up to 175 in your whole life. John, you one of the truest connections that I have. I mean, the ability for us to be co-workers, to be collaborators, to be friends, and to, you know, be able to sense, this brother senses when I need something. I mean, he will call me when I'm having one of the moments. John, out the blue, will call the brother, man. I mean, that to me is connection. And I appreciate that so. And I know, you know, I guess I could be real selfish and say, I wish it was only with me, but you know what? I've been practicing not being selfish and being selfless. So I'm happy that you are on this platform, on this stage, and capable and able to continue to share pearls with everyone that you come across. So appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate y'all all. Thank you so much. Let's keep doing this, y'all. Keep changing the world. I'm gonna get out here because I got bars exchange with my sister Leah in a few minutes, because I need to work on my own energy. I have tons of classes stuff that I'm gonna keep on doing. I got a bunch of I got this class I'm gonna do y'all about aliens coming up pretty soon. So I've been dealing with some entity stuff. So I want to share that with y'all. It's gonna be kind of different. It's gonna be George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic type of shit. The real thing. And we'll see Jason and Demetrius next week. Peace and blessings, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.